ER Nelson. I am the director of Pirates of the Great Salt Lake. My film is about a pair of modern-day pirates who are searching for treasure on the waters of the Great Salt Lake. They come across a map which leads to treasure which may or may not be cursed, and must battle with a villain, a rival, to find that treasure. It's a comedy, kind of in the vein of like Monty Python style of humor, Napoleon Dynamite, Don Quixote-esque adventure. They're outcasts, you know, in the modern world. You know, they refuse to conform with society, and you know, they want to live life on their own terms. You know, at least that's what they I think eventually come to realize. At first, you know, they're not quite sure exactly who they are and how they fit, and you know, as I think, which is really a theme I think prevalent in everybody's life. You know, I mean, life is an adventure. Life is you know, a search. You know, I think for meaning, and you know, ultimately it's about discovering, you know, who you are, and I think that changes. You know, as you grow older and your perspectives change. You know. For me, you know, I'm a father. I have two kids, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and you know, it's interesting to look at life kind of through their eyes, and you know, and you see, you know, when my daughter, for example, who's the 6-year-old, you know, she's kind of a shyer person at first, which is really kind of how I was when I was younger, and I'm not quite that way anymore. I've grown out of my shell to some degree, you know, and sometimes I wish that she would, and I realized, well, it took me, you know, quite a few years to come to that. Truth is dependent on really, you know, what perspective, where you're standing, you know, at the time. Yeah. My writing partner and I, Nathan, were working on a different script before Pirates, which was basically, it was this kind of a romantic comedy set in a world of a comic strip. You know, basically a comic strip artist is kind of having trouble in his marriage and falls into the world of his strip and has to figure things out and blah 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 blah. And we had a budget in mind for that, which was essentially twice as large as what we made Pirates for. And we had a couple investors on board, and we were moving along and planning on shooting that script. And when they came to us and said, "Look, guys, we're gonna have to cut your budget," you know, I mean, that happens. You know, every, you know, even in the studio system, you know, you run into budget cuts and slashes and all that kind of stuff all the time. And so we were forced, you know, to decide, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to make this film on a smaller budget? Are we going to wait till we can get more money and possibly lose the money that we have as well? And we'd been brainstorming one day, and this idea, this title popped out, Pirates of the Great Salt Lake. You know, and at the time we're like, well, that's a funny title. You know, there's definitely an absurd story in there, but we didn't really know what it was, and we just kind of set it aside. And when that kind of budget crunch happened, we were like, well, let's see if we can pull this out. We shot on location on the Great Salt Lake, which was also kind of a tough deal because it's the middle of August, which is, you know, 100-degree weather in Utah. It's also brine fly season on the Great Salt Lake. If you watch the movie closely, you can see them. Oh. There are scenes, you know, where they're in the boat, you know, especially in like the HD version. They're there. But, you know, there's a scene where Kirk runs, he's being chased by the tent owners, and he runs across through the shore into the lake, into his boat, where he's trying to escape. And as he runs, you see this big black border across the lake, and he goes through it, and like the Red Sea, it splits, you know, as he goes through, and just kind of, there's these big black clouds on either side of him. And I love filmmaking, but I think more wholly, I love storytelling. And you know, filmmaking is just one mode of that, you know. And I like to write, I like to draw. I like to tell stories, to read, you know, be involved in, you know, in every aspect of it. And I think, you know, ultimately, you know, if there's anything that binds us to our ancestors, that binds, you know, a person to another person, it's stories, you know, which I think is kind of, you know, definitely a Jungian kind of philosophy, you know, to some degree, as far as, you know, these universal archetypes that exist. But I think it's very true. I think, you know, stories exist for a reason, you know, and myths provide, you know, meaning and direction. So within me, within humanity, we're driven to create, you know, and I think whether you believe on whatever, you know, spectrum, you know, whether you're, you know, into you know, the religious idea that God created the world, or whether you know, you believe, you know, more scientifically that, you know, that we, you know, evolved from, you know, single cell organisms or whatever. Either way, it's about creation. It's about growth and making something. And so I think, you know, art is definitely born of that. You know, why do we create art? Why are we driven to do it? I think is probably that answer that we're all looking for, as to, you know, why do we exist? You know, who are we on the inside, and you know, what's our purpose in life? You know.